Alright, let's get started. I have a foolishly ambitious plan for the day. Put here in the title, doc updates, HTML, template code gen, and more linkers in super dev mode. Never going to get that far, but we're going to give it a shot. Justin is momentarily going to tell me that I shouldn't get started before people have had a chance to join, and this is the part now where I will tell him that I'm just going to talk for a little bit before I get started with anything for real. But odds are I started too fast to even give him a chance to catch up there. So I had a little bit of work I had to do before I got this going. I had a snowstorm last week. That prevented me from going to the dentist, so I had to go to the dentist this week. Then I've gotten paperwork done and a couple of bugs to file and ways to reproduce, and now I am finally getting around to the work that I had intended to stream today. Got about 2 hours before I need to take off, so it's going to be a fairly short one, but hopefully back to business as usual for next week. That's the plan. So let's take a look. First thing on the list I've got is a GWT site change. Let's pull up the bug tracker here first. There's a few quick changes we can make. Maybe I should add to the list looking at the webhook for the GWT Eclipse plugin. I set up a webhook this past week. And it's a pretty cool setup. I'm actually fairly happy with it. I put it in the in my fork of the gwtproject.org configuration, and it basically works out to say, let's see here. Did I stream this? I don't think I streamed this. Somebody would tell me if I did. Basically added one more service in here that's going to run as a webhook. Now, a webhook, for those who don't know, is an HTTP service that sits somewhere, and it can be called by anyone, basically. But if it doesn't have the particular secret, the server will ignore it. And then when it is called, it will do some work. So we deploy a JSON file that says, hey, here's the URL we're gonna use here to check it. When the webhook gets hit, we're gonna run this little shell script. Here's the working directory we should run on in the Docker container where the webhook is running. And here's how you tell if the rule was triggered or not. So first of all, make sure that the right webhook secret is given. We have invalid JSON here because this JSON file will be templated when it's run to grab the webhook secret out of the environment. We make sure that the webhook is referring to the main branch, and we make sure that the state of the webhook is success. And then the next thing we do, once this is up and running, let's see, was there anything else to say here? Yes, this is its own little process. It's running a little webhook service, and then it says this is where my webhooks will be. This is what I need to do when I'm done. And here is the content we will be able to modify. So there is a plugin domain here now. This is the host for plugins.gwtproject.org. And because this path here for plugin content is the same as this path, plugin content Eclipse plugin nightly, we can just mount nightly, and we can just modify that directory whenever something changes. So we already have a GWT Eclipse plugin project, and I set things up in here. This is something you can only see if you are somebody who's administering the project. There won't be anything private in here that you can't see. So here's the webhook that will go to our Gitter page and say, hey, somebody open an issue or a pull request or something like that. And then whenever the status changes, and the status is this little icon here, this checkbox. So whenever that changes for any reason, if I click on it, we can see that the CI build passed because of a push to main. Whenever that passes, it will automatically send a call to, I can't show you this, so 1 second, please. Watch me type numbers without actually saying them out loud. There we go. Okay, so this is the webhook configuration page where I gave it the full URL for it. I say, please send me JSON. There's a secret, which you can't see. In fact, nobody can see. Once it's set, you can't see it again. And then I specified I only want the following events. I only want the status events whenever a commit status is updated. And then as we saw here, the hook JSON will make sure that it's a commit status where it was a success status and a commit to main itself. So a failed commit to main won't trigger it, and a successful commit to any other branch won't trigger it. And then this command runs, which is clean up any garbage from last time, make a new directory for it, use this nightly link trick to download the last build of the main branch, and grab that repository zip, and then we cd into nightly, blow away the existing contents, and unpack the existing, or the new one. So I have not actually checked this yet to make sure this is working. I'm going to log into the server where this is going to run. It's a different server, because we're also in the process of migrating things. Let's see here if this is going to behave for me. Yep. And then, sorry, still off screen. Okay, so now we are on the server that this is all running on, quitproject.org. We have the, let's see here, the plugins directory. And inside that plugins directory, it has our hook, and it never built the nightly. It never copied it. So it looks like something failed when this ran. So let's take a look at our webhook. Docker compose logs, I guess. Sorry, my desk is falling apart. There we go. So some other webhook ran. It does not look like it correctly noticed the change. Someone's trying to break it. Didn't get triggered because rules were not satisfied. And then it says the workflow is matched. The branch was missing. It was matched but didn't trigger. So it doesn't look like the merge correctly triggered this. I believe there's a way we can ask it. Oh yeah, here we go. I missed the click here. Recent deliveries. Oh, so only the ping landed. Huh. So did we not merge the pull request? Maybe I screwed up. Yeah, fixed class cast exception. This was merged 5 days ago. The merge was, let's get the exact timestamp here, 11:44 Central Time on the 24th. And the timestamp here is, yeah, it should have happened right in this window here. So for some reason, the webhook just didn't even call this when main merged and built. Okay, well, it's not going to be very helpful to discuss here if it isn't actually working. But that's why this is just our first getting started here. Oh, hey, look at that. Oh, no, that's someone else's thing. Here's the main one, fixed class cast, 5 days ago, the 24th. Oh, you can't see that, sorry. Fixed class cast exception, a commit to main, 5 days ago. I hover, I get the actual timestamp, 11:44. And that should have invoked a status check on main. It should have triggered a status event, but it didn't, I guess. So okay, we'll have to follow up on this and figure out what made it decide not to do this. So here's the commit itself. The timestamp on the commit is, where do they put that? I don't see it at a glance. It's on main, yes. There's the status. All right. We're going to have to follow up on this. Okay, so strike one. We failed on that one. We'll get the webhook working later. Quit site. We just found a bug here that we can fix ourselves. Update historical release links to use HTTPS. So the issue here is that quitproject.org if you go to the download page, try to download an old version, in at least some browsers, let's see, this is HTTPS. We can see in the corner over here where it shows the little pop-up what the URL is going to be. This is HTTPS. GOGL, I'm guessing, is not HTTPS. So 2.7, if I click on it, file not downloaded, potential security risk, show more information. And then it says you can allow download or remove file. So some browsers now are saying, hey, you're downloading a zip file, but you did not correctly use SSL, or your website did not use SSL. So we're going to stop you from that because that doesn't seem like a good idea. Now, we do provide the SHA sums, so any user can verify these downloads, but it's still a little sketchy. So we want to fix this and correct this and say, hey, let's prevent that from happening again. So let's open up the GWT site project, go and find versions, let's see, what is this? 2.7 and earlier. So we're already looking at 9-year-old releases. The person who was interested was actually interested in an even older release than this. But, you know, whatever. The ideal with the webhook part was if we got webhooks working for why won't you open? For the plugin, we could also modify the GWT site project to use a webhook to deploy it automatically. That's going to be a whole other thing, though, and so I'm kind of glad it didn't work out, but whatever. We got to get there eventually. All right, so we got to go to the Markdown page, the versions file, and start looking for all these old links. 2.9, 2.82, 281, 280, still HTTPS. And then from here on down, it looks like it's going to be HTTP. So let's first of all do a find in this file for HTTP colon. Oh, it's actually just, no way, is it just 2? It's just 2 that are wrong? Everything else was fine? Well, that's a little silly. HTTPS, HTTPS. This one came directly from here. Yep, these are all, the rest of these are all going directly there. So I wonder if we can just unobfuscate these while we're at it, because it's silly to use that. Is there something here that lets us say, hey, all things will be redirected, your existing short links will not be migrated, blah, blah, blah. How do you unshorten a link? I'm sure there's a tool for it. I don't want to make it longer, I want to make it less short. So presumably this is just going to look at the redirect. And maybe not work. There we go. All right, so this at least follows the pattern of other releases, sort of. It's storage.google APIs, but it's a different URL. It's interesting. This is GWT releases as opposed to... Well, whatever. Let's unshorten each one of these then. I bet I missed one below it. That one's correct. That one's already unshortened. Oh, right, it was just the 2 that were using HTTP. So I'm guessing this is going to follow the same pattern as this link here. Just, you know, storage API, storage Google APIs, GWT releases 2.6.0. Oh boy, this is taking its sweet time here. It downloads properly. Yep, thanks. I don't need another copy of an old GWT release. I have enough of those. Okay, let's look at one of the other shortener tools, because this one seems a bit... I was hoping I could just walk them real quick. Okay. Nope, that's the unshortened link. We want the 2.7 link here. this is any more than a second. I'm just gonna... Yep, okay. We're gonna give up and use curl. Use the right tool, I guess. It's the answer. So we're gonna use curl. We're not gonna specify dash capital L, which would mean follow redirects. Instead, we're just going to grep location, which is the redirect URL. Oh, it's not right because I didn't say verbose. And it also sent it all out there standard out or standard error. Great. So we can't see it. Here's the location though. Lowercase l because it's HTTP2. All right. Let's put it here. And HTTPS. And then we'll go through and unshorten each one of these. Let's see. Can anybody remember how to redirect standard error to standard out? It's like that, right? Or did I get backward? Am I redirecting to standard in or something? Just really breaking it? Yeah, I bet that's what I did. 2, arrow, ampersand, 1. Okay, so you got to think about the ampersand as sort of like a dereference thing. So that's what I actually meant. And it doesn't have a location, right? Because we said it's lowercase l. So now we've got a very simple way for each one of these to grab the URL. Of course, I just have to go back in here and replace this. If I was doing more than a dozen, I'd probably make a quick function for it. But it's just going to be like 3 or 4 more. So let's just unwrap all of these because they serve no purpose anymore. Except for providing analytics for someone who either doesn't read them, but they're not part of the community anymore. So while I'm at it, I'm also going to kill off some old analytics, which has been requested for a long time. There's no reason to be tracking people for downloading these, because we don't have access to that anyway. Right. Let's see. 281. These are following a perfect pattern. Boy, I could have just copy-pasted and run it for each one of these, huh? HTTPS. Did I get the last one right? Yes, HTTPS. Good. 281, 281. Good. Here's 282. All right, it's exactly the same. I need to actually follow my own advice here and, you know, just paste it everywhere rather than trying to do this manually, but whatever. It's HTTPS, good. And this one is using the unobfuscated URL. And then 2.10 is the first version we use GitHub releases itself. So there we go. All right. 2.9. 2.9 is the same on both sides. 282, 282. Just double check these, making sure they're all HTTPS also. 281, 281, 280, 280, 270, 261, 260, old link. Just curious if this actually works. Oh, good, it does. So Google has told us that they're not going to break any of these existing download links, and I'm inclined to believe them because it'd be a big pain if they did. 2.4, personally, my favorite release. If you got to pick a release, that's my favorite. Mostly because it lasted for so long and had so many fixes to it. It's very stable from my perspective. It was also like 10 years ago. 2.1, 2.04, 2.03, 2.02, 2.01. I can't imagine anyone's going back further than this, but you never know. Here's where we, in the 1.x days, we had to have Windows, Mac, and Linux be separate. I bet you nickel that at least the Mac and Linux don't work very well anymore. Yeah, they're specific to particular versions of Mac OS. And i386. 36 is dying. I believe Java is no longer going to make 32-bit JVMs for Windows anymore. All right, these, I don't see anything else that's obfuscated in here. Let's just search real quick for go.gl. Nobody. HTTP, nobody. Perfect. All right, we're gonna go ahead and make a branch for this. Looks like I might accidentally have something else in here. Maybe I'll even mute Slack. Oh, okay, let me read this real quick. Sorry, we're writing an article for internal consumption about why people use GWT, and hopefully we'll be able to bump it out for something external at some point. Okay. Let's figure out what I'm doing wrong here. Oh, we still got a master branch in this repository. It doesn't get updated very often. Let's make sure this is going to pull. We don't want Google source anymore. We want merge GitHub master. Okay. And then what was the name of this branch we're going to fix? 340. So we'll call this new branch 340. Branch is 340. Sorry for getting distracted again. Said I wasn't going to do that. Oops. Let's look at it real quick. Oh, looks like it was halfway through some old commit. We'll check that out later. That's probably wrong. Neat. Let me make sure origin is what I think it is. It should be my own fork. Yep. push origin 340. We should pretty quickly see. I guess we'll have to create it first. Okay, so while we're in here, I also remember there's a couple other little ones we can get here too. Hey, look at that. There's actually a note here for get rid of this. Okay. We will come back to that since I've got a separate branch for it. Confusing statement, no GBR. So 311, let's fix 311. So who do we need to deal with to fix that? There's a bunch of cookies that are set, which are all nonsense. So if you're looking for Google Analytics, where would you poke around? It's probably in one of the markdown generating tools. Is it in Java then? Or is it some resource that we use? Yeah, here we go. This is where it's going to be. Put this all together. Yep, here we go. This whole section here just goes away. This is for search. I wonder if we still set cookies if we just use search. So let's try this out. If I build this, let's read the README to see how to build it and see what kind of cookies we get set locally. Running locally. So it looks like Maven run, but to build it, we got to use pgrunt. Just do a clean just to make sure things are all tidy. Okay. And then it says we can just Maven Jetty run. Let's see if that works. A lot of this setup is pretty old. I'm not really confident this is going to work. Localhost 9999. Cool. All right, let's take a look at cookies that are set and such. Is it set here? No. Where do cookies show up? Storage? Cookies. Okay, so I got a lot of junk cookies from other projects I've been working on. Can I just delete them all? Delete them all, yeah. Refresh the page. I don't need to stop on every exception, thanks. That's not helpful right now. Storage, cookies. No, we didn't set anything. Okay, so that might be the end of that. Does search still work? It's going to search the regular site if it works at all, which it doesn't look like it does. Does this even work? Wait, there was a note there. Request to access cookie or storage on blah was blocked because it came from a tracker and content blocking. Okay, so Firefox is already hammering on some of this crap anyway. Loading failed for the script tag. Right, because we don't actually have that script ready. what should be doing that? If I turn off content blocking, will I see that? Okay, yeah, it's going to try and apparently set some stuff here. Let's turn off content blocking and see what happens. Loading failed for this. What would even load this? Async ads? Why is async ads loading at all for our page? Is it just because of the search thing? If you support search, you get ads? Big move, Google, if true. Nope, still not loading any cookies. No session garbage. That's good at least. Let's see what tried to... Hey, it didn't actually build this properly. This was removed. Didn't we remove that? Did it not rebuild it properly? Yeah, it shouldn't be here anymore. Hey, we don't need IE7 support either. Is there anywhere else that should show up in here? Is this the right ID? Yes, you can't see the other screen. It is, so let's just look somewhere else. Oh, there's another template that has this? There's an index file that has it. Why is that not generated from the same thing? It's not really important. I'm just irritated. Okay, so here's where that custom search is going to load. Same as over here. Let's try another build and try it again. Because maybe it's different links have a different set of this junk that's getting set up. And I probably need to turn off other content blockers that are protecting me from the internet. See what happens. Okay, so we no longer have that first section. Storage, cookies, still doesn't have anything. Session, so nobody's using that for cookie-ish things. But then again, it didn't load anything beforehand anyway. Let's look at network real quick and see what this other stuff is, if it's going to set cookies for me. Yeah, it is. Is this originally what was in the report? No. 1pjar NID and consent. So apparently google.com didn't resolve. Enhanced by Google, that's probably the search for this thing here, which just didn't render. No cookie is set for that. Async ads. There's a non-HTTPS link showing up for this. No cookies. So what it exactly is trying to load async ads? Let me see here. Async ads came from, what's the initiator? CSE element is apparently loading that. So we should find a different search tool, because this is silly that they're going to do that. Just lower this weight a little bit. You know, I hear some search engines ding you for, you know, a file that loads a file that loads a file and slows down, you know, your connection in general. I'm sure they're doing all kinds of other nice async stuff to make it go as fast as possible, but that's really not the point. Okay. Let's try the real site. and see what we get there. Just so we've got a bit of a before and after. Odd, this says I have no cookies, so maybe this has gone away? Or maybe it's a, I don't know, maybe Firefox is also protecting me here? I really don't dig too far into what all these buttons do, except that, you know, they're on by default for any reasonable setup. No, still no cookies. I've got Chrome running on another instance here, so I'm going to need to go poke that to get it to work over here. Oh, actually I don't. I quit it. Good. Okay, scripts, content itself, fonts, images, style sheets. Where do we put cookies? Here we are, cookies. So this shows 3 cookies. Let's nuke those real quick. And then reload. So why are they not coming back? Okay, well that is removed at least. I am confused. Why we're not getting those cookies set again. So does anybody have any good search tool, local search tool? Whoa! They're putting. Hang on, what hot garbage is this? This is the stupid. Oh, here's an extra header I'm gonna send to tell you who I am. Thanks. Thanks. You're a jerk, Google. Is this the thing that only sends to Google domains and nobody else gets to see this? Yeah, this is the thing that only sends to Google domains. Nobody else gets to see it. Sweet. I was just thinking about how I unfortunately don't get tracked in enough other ways. Okay, so it's possible that my pie hole is catching this and stopping it. So let's turn it off for a minute. What are you unhappy about? Oh, that's fine. I don't care. All right, we'll disable it for 5 minutes. Probably won't take that long. Refresh. Application. Hey, look at that. Cookies galore. There we go. Okay, so it's been Google Analytics all along. And it's the only thing that does it. Once Google Analytics is blocked by, you know, just having a pie hole or having any kind of ad blocker, this all goes away. Well, that's good to know that Google Analytics actually can't see me anywhere on the internet. Huh, how about that? Okay, that makes me a little more confident there, so we will go ahead and check that in as is and find something to replace the search tool eventually. Yeah, so a static site search that we can run offline. If anybody's got any ideas there, that would be lovely. Are these different? Yeah, they are different. They're just different indentation. But not meaningfully different. Okay, cool. Ooh, is this again? You're still been grumpy about this. I thought we already told it to go away. Delete it. Yeah, there we go. So now we're gonna say the ticket number again, 311. Cool. All right. Well, as long as we're in here, let's go back and look at that. Oh yeah, let's turn all my regular blocking stuff back on again. That's fine for Gwt project. I don't care about that. But I do want the pie hole. Thank you. Okay. Okay, it looks like there was a ticket for this. We should look at 337 right here. Remove defunct JavaScript. Upstream what I meant? Yeah, looks like. Okay, so it looks like I'm just deleting these particular files here. And then looks like we still need to fix dev guide coding basics JS interop. It'd be good to check if anyone else has a reference here. So let's open that file. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Thomas helpfully gave us a link to javadoc.io. Looks like that should contain it. Let's just double check real quick. Cool. So we'll render this quick and then go check that page. Anything else in here? This is linked from here, which should now point to here. This is still in blue and should be removed by blah. Let's look for any other references to JS interop annotations in the code base. Just the one. Gwt project, javadoc, latest JS interop, annotations package summary. Awesome. Okay. Yep, let's click the little button to say make me a pull request. I'm going to grab the original. Oh, I guess we never had a nice title here for this. So we'll make one. Let's make sure that's HTTPS. Yep, all right. And then, just because we're here, I'm going to look for any other HTTP links in the site. That should be HTTPS. Wait, what was that? Oh, that's just some testing thing I was doing. Could be deleted. Yep, npm, thanks. That helps. Let's actually scope it down to project files. Is that gonna get rid of that junk? Project source files? All right, let's just restrict it to the source directory. There we go. Let's put the pop-up here because that's getting too hard to find. Continue. This looks like trouble because that's way more things than I was hoping to find. Ooh, Ahmed just found a link shared internally. The benefits of web component libraries. Man, I want to argue with this. I'm sure that there are actually some good points here. I just think that there's some terrible points too. Okay, this is there's a lot of these. How about we just restrict ourselves to GWT project links for the moment? There's a lot of these. All right, let's write a regex here just to make sure we get this right. So we're going to say HTTP. We're going to do a capture group of .star.gwtproject.org. What am I doing wrong? Do you not like one of these characters? Oh, it's because it doesn't recognize it's a regular expression yet. There we go. Okay. So anything at gwtproject.org now should be rewritten to https://$1. So that is just going to add the HTTPS there. Oh no, where'd you go? You jerk. Yep, it took it away. Put it back. There we go. Let's one by one hit these while we make sure they're making sense. Then we'll use git to double check that they actually make sense at the end. So let's see here. It looks like this is just a plain HTML file. Why is there a refresh on here? Articles/index.html will take to articles. Why is there a redirect on? Oh, I see. I guess there used to be a file there, and they're just saying, hey, we're not going to do that anymore. Okay, this found a samples link and it's rewriting from HTTP, samples gwtproject.org to HTTPS samples. I did some very cursory analytics on how much we're seeing, and we're getting something like on the order of I want to say 10,000 hits a month. A day. It's probably a month. We get a lot of logs though. But if some of them are these redirects, and I can't remember how I broke it down, it might be nice to find a way to fully anonymize, just rip out all the user agent, except for maybe the strings that indicate that it's a bot. And IP address, just kill all that. We got a lot of these. How many does it say? 61. Okay, this isn't terrible. These are all links to various samples. It's irritating, it doesn't actually show. It's all the way out here. Web creator. Yeah, okay. We'll need to kill that too. But one thing at a time. This at least we can do fairly quickly. Another one of these redirect articles. Okay. Inbox is defunct. It's unfortunate we still have that. What's this about? This is... Right, because it's a separate branch that's killing that off. So don't worry about it. A lot of those are dead. What's this link go to? Well, they deleted it. Sweet. Thanks for that. This is... Oh, this is part of the old release notes. Okay, so it doesn't... It's okay if that's missing. Release notes we really don't care about, unless there's download links or something, which I don't think we care about. Okay, just going to close that one entirely. Looks like versions... Oh, right. We already did this. Okay, I'm gonna just punt on the rest of this for right now. We got a couple of simple pull requests up. Okay, just going to double check each one of these, make sure we're only increasing each line by a character, in this case 2, because there's 2 links. Oh no, there's only 1 link to quit project. There's more than one thing here. Let's make this bigger so we can read it. There we go. Linkers, interestingly, is the next thing I want to talk... Is that the next thing I want to talk about? Wrong screen. We could do linkers. Looks good. See, little things like this extra white space here, just make me itch, but we don't actually care right now. Let's not fix everything. Just one thing at a time. I guess we should fix all these Google source links. Google has said that they're not going anywhere, but Also seems rude to delete design docs, so who knows. And they deleted all the old reviews already. Okay. All right, I think we're gonna count that as enough vegetables for today. And let's move on to dessert. Write something fun for a little while. Okay, if anybody loves doing code reviews, I just opened 4. Be nice to get those someone to take a look at those. Okay, let's look at linkers and how they work with super dev mode. I got a couple things I want to talk about here. The first one is trying to make super dev mode work with non-standard linkers. So Ahmed Bouan has been working with us as of last November-ish, I think. And one of the first things he did was build us a linker that lets you compile a GWT application into a ES6 module. So that way you can use the new import and export syntax for it. And we're going to deploy that to production, I think, Friday. It's been waiting for a long time. There have been some other pieces that are waiting for it. But the problem is you can't use that with super dev mode because super dev mode only works with the cross-site iframe linker. And unfortunately, the way this is tested is that the cross-site iframe linker, somebody does an instance of check to say, hey, if you're not a... Really? Is this not it? Am I wrong? How do we check this? I'm almost certain this is what it does. Yeah, okay, it's an assignable from. Why isn't it an instance of? Oh, because it's a class. Okay, so if your primary linker is not assignable from cross-site iframe linker, we just say, sorry, can't do super dev mode. That's unfortunate. Other fun things that I would like to learn more about and see if we can support are things like the hot swap feature that some other toolkits use. Now, it's not going to be perfect because existing instances of objects won't get made into the new instance, so it's not going to be like the JVM hot swap, quite as powerful as that. But it will do some of that anyway. Anyway, for particular use cases, that might be pretty helpful. So just understanding a little bit about what linkers do and how super dev mode uses linkers today will help us to answer some of this. One of the other things that comes up about linkers is if you use GitHub code spaces, the existing wiring in super dev mode to trigger the cross-site linker will not let your page load correctly over a proxy. So we need a different kind of proxy, or we need more configuration to let that work. So first thing, my recompiler and my whole code server isn't considered Java sources by IntelliJ. I would really love to spend a week and finish rebuilding this project to not use Ant. But I don't think I'm going to get time for that soon. All right, let's just go ahead and cheat and mark this as sources. All right, that didn't take too long. Cool. So now we can say there's 2 different places where we say, hey, grab the linker. So we got a linker class. We need a linker, automatically replace the default linker. If the class is assignable from iframe linker, it automatically upgrades you. What? That's wild. Why would it do that? That seems pretty hacky and gross. Okay. And then it says if assignable. Yes, if this is assignable from, then we say, nope, fail, shut down, give up. So why is that? What is the undeclared dependency here between the cross-site iframe linker and the recompiler and how the recompiler runs? Because obviously there is one. They're not just being a jerk here by doing this. It is going to cause some kind of a problem that's going to prevent this from working properly. So I'm going to open up a project. Actually, maybe I'll use... Let me think about this. What's going to be the easiest way to address this and to look at how this works? Here's the thing that actually does the lifting, I think. Stub. Here it is. So I did a little write-up of this in Gitter, if you happen to have seen it. Let's trace backward here. Here we are in the launcher dir, which is part of the code server. An output directory where other servers pick up files from super dev mode. This often points to the war directory for a super dev mode, for a regular dev mode server or super dev mode. But it may point to a subdirectory. Underneath this directory, the code server will write one subdirectory for each module, a no-cache.js file, public resource files, and GUID-RPC files will be written there. This is usually enough to launch super dev mode without running the production compiler first. So what this means is that a running server is going to expect access to things like public resource files, GUID-RPC policies, and your app itself naturally is going to... Did I just lose focus there? Looks like I did. Better my own eyes lost focus on my video. Anyway, doesn't matter. No one's here to look at me anyway. The way your app usually runs is you've got your own server that says, okay, run this HTML file. The HTML file loads a script file. The script file is your no cache file. So this is the cache busting bit to say, okay, now go load this other file here that contains the actual stuff. So the way that something like Create React App works is that they also own your HTML file. And they rewrite that HTML file itself, which means you couldn't have other server resources, to the best of my knowledge. I'm not an expert here, which generates the server, because they then say don't cache the HTML file ever. And then the HTML file will always have a hash named JS file that they load. So the HTML file is the bootstrap instead of a no cache file. And then it directly loads the contents you need. That's not how GWT works. GWT says your HTML file could be anything. It could be a JSP, it could be a servlet, it could even be something on a different server entirely. We aren't assuming, typically, that you are writing a monolithic app. You could be writing a library. But that makes dev mode really hard to do for library cases, where you've got some app over here that's running and says, okay, go load this JS file over here, but then that JS file needs to, I don't know, write an iframe to the page and say, okay, go load JS from over here. The launcher dir is going to rewrite the usual no-cache.js file on your server with this stub. The stub's contents will end up in there instead. And one of the things the stub does is say, I know what the super dev mode port should be. I know what the module name should be. These are strings that'll be replaced. If we do a search here, launcher dir is going to do it here. It's going to replace super dev mode, super dev port and module names. It just recognizes those strings and automatically replaces them before it writes the file to your server's HTTP content directory. The host name, though, it always reads from the server that you are loading from, which causes some funniness. So for example, let's say that you've got dev mode running over here, ignore that. Then we've got two other servers. We got one server that's running your HTML file and another server that actually hosts the JS. So the HTML file says, okay, point to server B, which hosts the JS, which then points over to super dev mode and says, okay, now you need to load super dev mode. The super dev mode process is going to rewrite this one to assume that it is loaded from this server. And that's not going to work. I'm sorry, that's not about the port, it's about server, just to be very clear, because I may have misspoken there somewhere. It's about the host name. If you run these things on different hosts. And the way that, pull this up real quick. Domino, UI, where's the samples? Examples? What do we call the Domino examples? Any Domino people here? Domino UI demo. This is going to take a little while to load, but whatever. It's cool. Code space, I think I've already got one. Yep, I've got one. This one here. When you run a code space, every port you have running opens a different host name, but they always use HTTPS. Right, so we're going to follow the README real quick and see if we can get this running. All right, you can't just copy paste like that. That's so irritating. Nope, that's not what I copied. Copy. Anytime you want to work here, Code Studio. Yep, that is still not my clipboard. Yeah, don't worry, browser apps any day now are gonna eat actual IDEs like IntelliJ. Any day now. Okay, so this is gonna run. This is gonna get grumpy. Don't worry about the grumpiness. We'll deal with that later. Cannot invoke int value because the return value. Oh, I know we figured this one out. This is about a Maven version. This is about Maven's 2 new ones. Yeah, check this out. We are running Maven 3.9, and there's a bug in Maven 3.9 around how it runs like reactor mojos. Anyway, we're going to turn on Maven wrapper. Crap, I can't remember how this works. Somewhere in here there's a, yeah, dash Maven 3, so we'll do dash Maven, just start typing that first, equals Maven release history. Let's grab 3.8.7. So now instead of running this, we're going to do /mvnw, which now runs an old version of Maven. So we just installed an old version of Maven. And it's going to do a lot of building junk. It actually does a pretty good job with some of this building stuff, going pretty quick. Okay, so once it gets past this, it's going to start up a port. It's going to open up a port. And over in this little panel here, we're going to see where the new port went. But instead of being, you know, nilloc132 ideal meme.dev, github.dev:9997, it's actually going to have a different host name. Which occurs to me, maybe we can tell this to use a particular forwarding port. Okay, so here it went. It said port 9977. Okay, so I tweaked this at some point. Now is this address here, which we really can't read, but the port number is part of the address. It doesn't append it as a port. So it's actually using 443 because this is HTTPS. So the question is, can we modify this? Is it possible for us to edit this and say, what I really want you to do is, okay, origin auto forward. Can we edit you? We can only edit this port here. Okay, if I just say like 8080, yeah, it is always going to decide for itself what the host should be. So what this means is if you are running 8080 for your server itself, which we will be in just a minute, you need a different origin here to load correctly. Okay. And also it needs to be HTTPS. It needs to know correctly that you need to read from window.location.protocol to replace HTTP with HTTPS. So we'll have to fix that too. And when I say fix that, I don't mean right now. This is more of a, hey, let's explore and think a little more about this. I did a little work on this last week, mostly the thinking about it part. And so now this is the put it in the brain of other people who are going to think about this stuff a little bit. Compute the code server URLs so the user does not need bookmarklets. So that comment there implied to me when I read it that the use of bookmarklets removes the need for this rewrite. So in other words, I could just navigate to this host and port here. This host and port. What do I need to do this? There we go. Connecting to the forwarded port. It's going to do a login thing. Okay, so now I've got these bookmarklets. If you can see at the bottom here, let me move this up. When I hover on this, the bookmarklet shows, and I can't move my mouse, otherwise you can't see it anymore. But it says it's going to run some JavaScript. It's got some parameters. The server URL is HTTPS, so it got it right there. And it has no port. It has the 9877 as part of the domain name and not as the actual port. So that's working properly, which means when you click this, it is going to append that to whatever page you're on. So if I do, what's the magic to say, give me a bookmark menu? Yeah, always show. Let's just drag this up here. Old school, dev mode on. And then we go back over here, and now we run the second set of steps. Start the server. Go back to our terminal, make a new terminal. And then run exec. This is for compiled mode. I actually want this. All right, so this is going to open a new port. I am quite sure I'm going to need to remove this, or at least it's going to be automatic in a moment. There we go. 8080 is available. Let's open this in a new tab. There we go. Ooh, is this my already hacked copy? Because it's working already. It should not have worked that fast. This must be my hacked copy. Let's make one more terminal, because I don't know how to use Code Studio very well. It just irritates me trying to find things. Get status. Okay, so I've actually already tweaked things. I hacked this. And the way I hacked it was, okay, so first of all, I set this port different because I was having some problems filming. I set bind address, that way you could forward it all. The default is to bind to 127.0.0.1, which means it binds onto your own local machine. Now, unfortunately, bind address is not part of one of the other args, so we can't just use your settings.xml or a command line argument to change the binding. Sorry, I've got a really itchy face here. Then the index page, we were just talking about Google Analytics. I nuked that one too. I replaced the call to load the regular JS with this. Is this still the same ID even after a week? It's really interesting. I would have expected those to be randomized. Well, whatever. The point is, I hacked in the script here directly instead of saying, hey, I actually want you to load the correct JS file. So we're going to stash this and put this back the way it belongs. The page sort of loads. Some stuff doesn't work properly. I'm guessing it's because I've done something wrong to set it up. It doesn't matter that it all doesn't work. The point is a fair bit of it does work. When I look at this, I wonder what BO3 does. Is BO3 like an actual thing? Well, it would have been really bad if it was not a site I should be looking at while I'm streaming. But it's not, so we don't have to worry about that. Thank you for thinking of future me when you wrote that forever ago, Ahmed Rafat. Okay, so we were going to try putting this URL back so it loads the correct one, and then instead of actually loading it, trying to use the bookmarklet to turn it on. So let's first of all get stash. And then I don't know if I need to restart the server or if it's enough to do this. Yes, it's enough to do that. Nope, it is not. Let's see how it's loading things. Is it loading the stub first? Let's restrict to just JS. This is the recompile requester, so it is directly referencing that. Okay, so we have to restart at least the server. this is the server. I guess it's Vertex. So we'll shut it down, start it back up again. That should be enough to get it to catch up and notice the change. And this time it still loaded the recompiled requester. Okay, so something needs to be rebuilt that I didn't rebuild properly. I bet I need to build from back here. Let's just see if that rebuilds things quickly enough. Keep in mind, a project like this, I picked because I want to have enough GWT stuff going on that it's reasonable, but unfortunately, example projects are never real projects. They never behave like real projects. You know, nobody ever just spams all of these widgets at once. And nobody really expects to start it in these ways. You know, we're turning it on in such a way that we don't even need a real server. We just need to say, hey, turn it on and make sure things happen, which is not what your real server would expect. So the workflows are going to be a little different. Okay, so here's the error. Could not load app from super dev mode, server at blah. Make sure it's ready. Do you want to try it again? And note that it's trying to load from 8080 with port 9877 and protocol HTTP. And that is just straight up wrong. So we're going to cancel that. Try the button. Can't find any GWT modules on this page. All right, so what logic is it using for that? Let's peek at GWT and see what it does here. I was expecting something. Did I screw up where I'm searching? Did I have a search thing that I shouldn't have? Any? Why can't it find it? Oh, look at that slash. Right, okay. We're all good. Okay, so here is the JS make text alt. One other thing I noticed now that it's sitting way over there is that, oops, I just lost my screen that I was going to show you. 4? Yeah, there we go. Let's do this now. 6. It puts the URL of where it was trying to load from over here, because that's the code server itself. So it might be a hint of some kind. If module table has child node, so what the heck is a module table? Module table is create a new div. What? If module table has child nodes, then you make it a header and you append it. Why would you check if it has child nodes and not just see if active modules has contents? Somebody wrote this code on purpose, and they didn't just branch there and say, if empty, then just skip it all and just do this. Well, whatever. Make module rows. With active module. So what is supposed to write to this? That reads it. That is probably part of the default linker that writes to it. Cross.iframe does it. Dev mode redirect hook, which I think is legacy dev mode. No, it's not. No, this is the new dev mode. So is that unset because it was expecting to have production.js there? And that way you can turn this on with production.js. Maybe that would make this work. Okay, let's try it. So what we're going to do is, the directions here are for compiled mode. You can say mode compiled when you run the server. So -d mode compiled. This might fail because I haven't yet actually compiled. We'll see. Okay, so now we're going to try and load the server, and then click dev mode on. Okay, So this is loading compiled JS. We can tell the difference by looking at the JS because there's none of this $G garbage on every single symbol, which is part of how the incremental aspect of super dev mode works, to make sure it rewrites as little as possible and reuses as much as it can. Okay, so now we click this button, choose a module to recompile, app off. This module doesn't have super dev mode enabled. Okay, so if there's some other check that we need to have active to say, I really want to load this particular one from a different server. What do I need to do to make that happen? Okay, here's this module doesn't have super dev mode enabled. Can redirect. Dev mode on and can redirect. So we need to look for dev mode on, which is mod super dev mode, and mod can redirect. And why are we accessing via indexing one way, and then over here we're accessing via property? Clojure compiler would just throw this all away. It's garbage. I mean, it's pretty old stuff, to be fair. And this, yeah, I don't have anything really to complain about, except that I have to deal with it. But I'm going to grump about it anyway, because it's my stream. And if you don't want to listen to me grump, go somewhere else. Related to, oh, hey, what are you looking at? I did not even see your message. Let's take a look here. 9446. Yes, exactly. Among other things, that's what we're working on here. So how do you get it to run with code spaces? Because for code spaces, if you notice here, super dev mode does not have a port at the end. Instead, it has a different host name than what your regular page does. I also want to look at how do we use different linkers entirely. That way we can support like an ES6 linker or the D8 linker or whatever you want to do. So yes, this is a good issue to talk about. Let me drag this to where we can see it. Incomplete proposed patch. Okay, that's pretty far. Let's see. Use my regular one here. Okay, it's just a dupe. Merge conflict. Another Sencha user plus one it. And then asked for a clarification, which he never followed up on. Great. Yeah, go away. Don't care. Let's look at the branch and see what the contents are. So unfortunately, this isn't enough. Changing the bind address won't solve it. Because we need to change the protocol too. So I am not willing to accept this as anything resembling a real solution. Plus, the port may not be accurate, because if it's going through a proxy, the port may not be set. So what we really want is a way to communicate the whole status here. I think the patch works as long as everything... Well, yeah, but yes, you're not wrong. Everything does work as long as it's HTTP, but that doesn't help cases like code spaces or other reverse proxies. It doesn't help any other reverse proxy where the port changes, never mind whether it's HTTP or HTTPS. And it doesn't solve our more general problems of how do I use other linkers with super dev mode. So I'm trying to pick up all the different problems orbiting. This is a good reference to have in mind, and I will hang on to it when I start thinking about proposing changes. I don't think this is sufficient, even if you made one more magic flag for this. I still don't think it's sufficient. Because we still have to be able to say, well, on this box you start with this port, but when you access it from over here, because you're behind a proxy, then you have to use a different port. So now we have to have two flags for what the port is. I think it would be better if we just said you can override this entire URL in some way. And as far as I can tell, that's what dev mode on, this little magic button, does. Just to go back here again, when I hover on this at the bottom, I can't move my mouse down here because then the tooltip goes away. Or not the tooltip, but the URL. But you can see down here it says server URL equals HTTPS, so I got the protocol right. My giant long name here, -9877, so it got the domain name right. It wasn't the 8081. And then at the end, .preview, .app, .github, .dev, there's no port. It got the port right. It got all of them right because first, as a user, I had to go to the code server and grab this thingy and use it, click on it to make it do the thing. So this might be a general solution, and I'm kind of surprised nobody tried this. It's not enough though. It still isn't enough for what I'm after with ES6 modules and single artifact linkers. SSO, whatever the heck that linker's called. Single script linker. Why is it called SSO? Single script output? Doesn't matter. That's probably why it's called that. Okay. This module doesn't have super dev mode enabled. So how do we need to what do we need to do to get that to be enabled? We're going to look for mod super dev mode or Windows storage dev mode key. Windows session storage dev mode key. Dev mode key should be gwt dev mode hook module name. So whatever the module name is, we'll just need to log that. Maybe we can just find this and debug this as it runs and see what happens in here. Because I see we do have dev mode on right here. So let's grab that from the debugger. Nope, not there. There we are. So this is loaded from 9877. We're looking for... There we go. So much easier to debug it than to reason about it, but I think it's important to reason about it. So that's typically my approach. Okay, mod has nothing, which means it doesn't have that. And session storage, does it have dev mode key? Dev mode key is _gwt dev mode hook :app. Almost certainly it doesn't, because dev mode on is undefined. Love that about JavaScript. Okay, mod can redirect is false. So mod has bindings, can redirect, module base, and module name. It does not have super dev mode, and it does not have can redirect. So let's see what initially could have set can redirect for super dev mode. The dev mode redirect hook can do it by saying dev mode permitted. And here's a giant variable that we're going to use for this. Dev mode redirect hook permitted. I'm guessing this comes from Java somewhere. Yep, here it is. Must go after this because they're found in this. Include JS template variable. Get JS dev mode redirect hook permitted. It just straight up excludes HTTPS. You jerks. But this will work fine as long as your super dev mode server is HTTPS also. Is that the problem? Is that the whole root of this problem? Returns a JavaScript expression that determines whether super dev mode may be turned on for the current page. May either return the JavaScript itself or the name of a Java resource ending with .js. May return the JavaScript itself, or that's weird because they're both strings. And then both might even be valid strings. The default implementation allows super dev mode only on HTTP and file pages. It could be overridden to implement blacklist whitelist of host names where it can be run as a safety precaution. It's recommended to return false for HTTPS and for host names in URLs visited by end users. If you override this method to allow HTTPS, it probably won't work anyway, because browsers often disallow loading JavaScript from HTTP URLs into HTTPS pages. Yes, but we're not doing that. We've got HTTPS page, HTTPS URL. To make it work, you will have to find a way to run the code server using HTTPS, which, again, We have a proxy. We already have a proxy. Whether you're using ngrok, whether you're using code spaces, we have a proxy. It's not a problem. We are trying to guard against the thing I want to do. So this is never overridden in GWT itself. It's protected, which suggests to me that inside of Google, they probably overrode this at least once to do something else. Apparently using the context, the linker context itself, otherwise this wouldn't be unused. Okay, if memory serves, that is not the only way to set this. Instead of just setting can redirect, we could also set the super dev mode. So let's set this to look only by case, override binding on. And then set property off. Okay, this might be pretty easy actually. What does it need to be? It just needs to exist? Oh, I must have misunderstood then. Let's try that again. It can't just be on or off. So this assigns the proper property. That reads it. Click to turn that off without recompiling. Okay. So aside from, I guess the only thing that's supposed to write that is super dev mode. Nobody else is supposed to write this. Everything else is supposed to use this redirect hook permitted. We can probably hack the page directly. If dev mode on is false and can't redirect. So could we find mod and flip it? Flip can redirect to true. So mod is modules on page, which is window, with active modules. We're just going to hit continue here. I'm trying to hack this. Console. App can redirect equals true. Can redirect. Oh, sorry, you can't see that. Why are you not helping? Whatever. Ah, super dev mode is now off. Click compile. We're checking again for some reason. That's so much easier. We don't have to hack anything. Oh, the whole thing works. It didn't do this before. Okay. That's pretty cool. So the answer is, you need to write a one line of JavaScript to say, hey, this thing can be super dev moded, and you need to use the bookmarklet. And as long as you do that, it works. So let's make sure. Let's find where it says time pickers. Let's go find the time pickers contents in my Code Studio. Now, how the heck do we do find? Can you do find in files this way? Yeah, time pickers. Here we go. Let's find the time picker here. Clock 12. let's just make it a 13-hour day, just for the sake of breaking something. So when I refresh this, did you not notice? Oh, it didn't notice. Okay, because super dev mode is off again. We click compile. Now over in this terminal, it is doing the recompile. It's actually done already. Where did I even write that time? I know I wrote the number 12. Changed 12 to 13. I don't know where it actually was. Time picker info as a label on the input time box. Input time box. Clock 12. Okay, so that did not change that correctly. Now this doesn't immediately mean that it didn't work. It, again, may also be a setup issue. These do happen. That would also explain why this went so fast. So let's change something more obvious, like just have some invalid code. Okay, it definitely noticed the brokenness and says it failed. So let's try changing something else that might actually make sense. Input time box inline. We'll change inline just to have some dots after it. Try again. There must be something else I'm tweaking instead. Tweaking the wrong thing. Oh, that's handy. Not what I wanted here, though. So somehow I'm tweaking the wrong thing. Or source directories aren't working properly. Let's see here. Card create profile. It's actually me. If I do this, will it recompile? Oh, it is actually not loading it. It looks like it's continuing to load the uncompiled version. Yeah. Okay, so it looked like it worked. It looked like it worked, but it didn't work. Because this makes it appear as though it's working every time I do this. And the fact that we saw the compile failure, and so it showed us the log. It made it look like it was working, but instead what it's supposed to do is load the JS from the right URL. So what happens when I click compile and it works? It refreshes the page, but then doesn't load the correct JS. Presumably it's not following the redirect. Yeah, back to false again. However, session storage is now set. Dev mode key. So now it says, oh, but you've already done it, so it's probably going to be fine. Yep. The dev mode key is right here. There it is. Okay. So that's the URL it was supposed to grab. But it didn't. Okay, so this isn't complete. Oh man, I thought we had it. It's too good to be true anyway. So something else is happening when the hook permitted thing gets replaced, which goes in and rewrites this chunk here in the dev mode redirect hook. This is the real one. Dev mode permitted. Okay, and this is where it should have read it. So the linker already has this junk written in it, and so it's not even going to check this. So short of writing a custom linker, because again, we're very tightly tied to the linker's internal implementation. And the linker's internal implementation is very tightly tied to super dev mode. We need to make this API a little more clear. The contract between these, because it's not really an API. There's no method call you have back and forth. But the contract that is assumed between these linkers. I mean, we could probably just hack this. But it writes it here and then it uses it a moment later. So almost certainly this has been obfuscated in our compiled JS. Let's go look at our compiled JS in here. Or require reload. Why are you you're a browser? Why do I need you to? No, just leave things alone. Things are working. You irritate me. Okay, we are looking in where the code server is running. It is writing to Domino UI demo target, which is the top level. Target is here. We are writing to code server. Are we writing to code server? Am I in the right directory? I got a third terminal here, right? Hi, I'm typing. There we go. Workspaces Domino UI demo. Writing to workspaces Domino UI demo target GWT code server. Target GWT code server. Oh, it's already inside of here. Got it. Okay, so it's writing to a different directory each time. Compile 10, compile 11. Oh, but we wanna go to this one where the app cache.js is. No, not this one. I'm sorry. We want to go to the one that's actually being served by the browser, because we told it use production.js, and then we were going to force super dev mode to turn on for that. Here we are. App no cache. Yeah, it's all obfuscated. It's going to be hard to track this. But we could probably look for HTTP. No, because it inlined it. HC module active modules can redirect equals I. So we just need to hack I to be true. This is terrible and disgusting. Okay, let's restart the server. Then it looks like plans have changed in my house and I need to run. Hopefully that was the correct copy of this to tweak. There's a good chance it wasn't. Let's see what happens. Nope, wrong copy. Okay, so there's another copy somewhere. We're just going to grab this real quick. Look for gwt underscore underscore gwt underscore. All right, so this is the only file, which means it just needs to be packaged, I'm guessing. We had this problem before. Just how the Vertex server is working just needs us to bundle this up and make it available. No, that's not what I meant. All right, this worked last time, so here's hoping. No good. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna do one more dumb thing and try this again. Let's see, what's the path to this file? Where's the breadcrumbs that tell me which? Here we are. UI demo frontend. Just in case it needs a built jar. This is easier than making a custom linker just for this one purpose. Okay, so now it's going to have my fake strings in there, I think, which I don't really want it to have. No, unless the profile is in a different project. Yeah, it's in a different project. Okay, so it probably won't pick up this change until Super Dev Mode kicks in. I can just break it again. There we go. This is not where code spaces do their best. Expensive compiles, big jars unpacking and packing. Gets a little crunchy. There's 7 people here. Someone go review my code. I'm just kidding. You can do it later, but you should do it. Review the code. Open source stuff really relies on community reviewers. 7 people here. This is more than usual. I put up a bunch of Gwt site reviews. So just a bunch of cleanup stuff. We got some URLs that are using HTTP. We had an old Google Analytics that nobody controls as far as I know, so we just killed it off. I unshortened some links because there's no point in them being shortened to begin with. There was a 4th one. Oh yeah, remove JS interop annotations because they don't do anything there. There we go. Almost done. Okay, cool. Start up the server. Let's see if it works. And if it doesn't, I gotta go anyway. But if it does, then there's still a dirty, dirty hack that we have to do. Okay, so it did not pick up my name, which is good, I guess. And now it's picking up the name change because I just typed garbage in there, and it still didn't pick it up. Okay. So there's some other check it's doing. I mean, why not have 3 different checks in 3 different places? I guess this is now 4 different checks in 4 different places to say, should we actually do what you meant? So it's kind of spaghetti-ish to make this work. So this is why, just as my conclusion for the stream, which I guess is only just shy of 2 hours, this is why I want to rethink, see if we can back up and redo how the linker's relationship with the super dev mode is defined, so we can allow any other kind of linker. I have a feeling that it is this complicated for a reason, to be able to handle all the cases and tell users, hey, this is why it didn't work. But on the other hand, if we can give some instructions or some templates to say, well, this should work, you know, this set of steps here, there's no reason it wouldn't work. Seems like we should just be able to let people do that. But what do I know? We'll find out, I guess. All right, I gotta go. The house goes on even if I've got more coding to do. So we'll be back with this later. Dimitri, hit me up later so we can talk about incremental. I'm probably just going to remove that bit of the patch for now and get it merged. That way anybody else who's shaking it down can express some confidence in that. And then I have been still working on the generics necessary for templates. Yeah, all right, cool. See you guys on Gitter, and hopefully Justin will be on tomorrow or Friday, and I should be back to normal streaming, you know, spirits willing, next week. And Yeah, I don't know what we'll be doing. I don't really know yet. I'd like to think some more about this. This seems like a good place to put some energy into, especially especially if we're gonna do a Gwt 2.11 release, which has a bunch of little fixes that are lined up, and if we're talking about that being a long-term release for Java 8 support, and then we're putting all the fun new stuff into the next version, Gwt 2.12, like Java 17 support, language support, that is, and then also inevitably this linker stuff and things like that. It'd be a nice way to sort of split the difference here and say, okay, well now let's try and break things, let's shake things up. There are things that should work that didn't make sense back in the day, but now they might. All right, I gotta go. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you next week.